Okay, thank you. Good evening. Welcome to the City of Groton Mayor and Council meeting for Monday, October 3rd, 2022. It is now 7:31. Call the meeting to order. Clerk Jacome, please call the roll.
Present are Mayor Keith Hedrick, Deputy Mayor Winifred Depot, Councilor McCabe, Councilor Piazza, Councilor Sheffield, City Clerk Edward Jacome, absent Councilor Norris, and Finance Director Uhas.
Okay, please stand and salute the flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Move on to recognitions, awards, and memorials. Council, is anything from you guys? Okay, I have a proclamation for Public Power Week. So this is from the Office of the Mayor, City of Groton, Connecticut, a proclamation for Public Power Week. Whereas in the early 1900s, City of Groton residents invested in a municipal public power department that became known as Groton Utilities. And whereas Groton Utilities provides safe, reliable, and affordable electricity to the City of Groton and the surrounding area. And whereas Groton Utilities is committed to improving the quality of life of its ratepayers and recognizes a vital role in providing the foundational infrastructure necessary for a vibrant and resilient community to thrive. And whereas Groton Utilities serves to be a premier utility at your service, and whereas Groton Utilities' success directly stems from community ownership and local decision makers, and whereas the City of Groton Mayor, Council, Commission, and residents recognize the people behind Groton Utilities and Public Power who remain committed to keeping our community energized, and whereas Groton Utilities is celebrating Public Power Week along with more than 2,000 other community-owned, not-for-profit electric utilities nationwide, now therefore be it resolved that I, Keith Hedrick, Mayor of the City of Groton, on behalf of the citizens and City Council, do hereby proclaim the week of October 2nd through the 8th, 2022 as Public Power Week, recognizing all of the teams at Groton Utilities that play a vital role in keeping our community up and running, from linemen and substation personnel to engineering, operations, and administration, all whom contributes to Groton Utilities and a great public power community success. Given under my hand this 3rd day of October 2022, signed Keith Hedrick, Mayor, City of Groton. Okay. Sure. Councilor Piazza.
Thank you. I just wanted to recognize a couple things. One, especially because we pass by them frequently, is the employees that are working along Pequannock Road with all the dust and heat and rain and everything, and they're still out there day in and day out. And especially to those who direct us up and down the hill. So I just want to say I appreciate you. And the second one I wanted to recognize the Fitch Co-op's girls swim team. They ousted East Lyme after 21 years of never beating them. And they have a 5-0 record, so I just want to say wahoo to Fitch Co-op, and they were highlighted in the day paper. So I'm very proud of my daughters, part of the team, and they're a great team, and they really are.
Very good. Anyone else? Okay, moving on. Receipt of citizens' petitions, comments. Receipt of citizens' petitions is the portion of the council meeting where the council welcomes comments from citizens. To address the council, please sign a sheet on the table in front of the meeting room. When you are recognized, please approach the podium. Clearly state your name and address. Each presentation should be limited to 5 minutes or less, and citizens should, if possible, submit email or written comments. Presentations should be related to matters pertinent to the City of Groton. City councilors will only ask questions in order to clarify the speaker's presentation and can respond during the responses to the citizens' petition portion of the meeting. Clerk Jacome, do we have anyone signed up?
Yes, we have two. Ian Thomas first.
Good evening. My name is Ian Thomas, 24 Jefferson Drive. Here to speak on a couple issues. I'd like to once again bring up the Branford Manor situation and speak on behalf of the residents there, urging once again to take all aggressive action, exploring the default options. I know that there's been some meetings with HUD The town manager sent out a report the other day, so I'd be curious to know some details on that and the current state of play, as far as trying to compel some sort of compliance and adherence to the agreement, the tax abatement agreement. But still, that doesn't change the fact that they did not do what they were supposed to do when they were supposed to do it, so that is a default by definition. So there's that. The other thing I'd like to speak about is the possibility of the November versus May election situation. I listened to the meeting last week, and I heard some of the ideas discussed, and as sympathetic as I am to the idea of a referendum, my hope would have been to see it, come onto the ballot for this November. Short of that, I think it is a thing that maybe, the city council should hold some sort of public hearing on, since we don't have the time to do it before November, as far as getting it on the ballot. So it'd have to kind of happen in-house. I do not like the proposal of holding it, having a vote to hold the election in May one more time around, or the November thing that, Deputy Mayor Depot suggested. Mostly because I'm not sure how that could be ensured as a path forward. It rests on a couple of critical assumptions, most of which it would assume that everyone is going to be reelected. We don't know who's running for city council and mayor in May or, the next cycle around. So while we all may agree to some theoretical deal of, have the referendum on the ballot in May, and we'd adhere to whatever the outcome of the referendum is, or have the referendum, put on the ballot for November, that's still like a logical bank shot. We're still assuming that this body holds together or is mostly reelected in some fashion, but there's no binding resolution. And I don't know if there's a possibility to do a binding resolution that whatever future council may have the seats here would adhere to the outcome of that referendum. That would just be sort of an assurance from someone or from a body that may not be back in its totality. And because, there is an election, and there's a whole nother party and a whole bunch of unaffiliated voters in town that, anybody can run for city council, and anyone can run for mayor. So, we don't know who's going to be in these seats in the future. So I think probably the best way, if there's a genuine desire to know the will of the people, since we can't put it on the ballot this November, and we have to make a decision by January, then perhaps holding a public hearing of some kind here in one of the meetings, and having maybe a couple of them to make sure that we have good turnout, might be the best way to move forward to get the will of the people, because I think that is a good thing to do, and also raise awareness to the issue so it doesn't feel like anyone's getting blindsided. But the decision has to be made before January, one way or the other, because January makes the decision for us, moving it to November if nothing's done. Now, full disclosure, I am in favor of the election being moved to November. So, but I also am just one person out of a whole population of the city. So, due diligence is to try to get the word out, spread awareness, and, have the hearing and try to take the pulse of the people in a documented, recorded fashion. And I can appreciate the ideas of surveys, I can appreciate the ideas of referendums, but we don't have the time to wait for the referendum, and there's no guarantee that we'll have, cohesion and continuity from one council to another. There could be a change of will there. And, the survey, well, I think also is a great idea, but, it's hard to get scientific with it, so I think going through the existing pathways of a public hearing, posting notices, and just really getting comprehensive of it, and maybe aiming to try to have that process completed and a vote done before the, like say by mid-December or so, might be the best way to try to split the difference and, honor the will of the electorate and, have this body take care of that business before we know what happens in the next year. Thank you.
Next, we have Portia Bordelon.
Thank you. Portia Bordelon, 24 Jefferson Drive. For full disclosure, I'm also a Groton Town Councilor. I want to start by talking, I stand with Brantford Manor and I agree again, and I ask this council to do something, a written something to go forward that you guys are aligned in some fashion, either against any action or any formal action of types, even if it's not to put them into any type of default. Some written statement coming from the elected officials would be a voice to those folks in Brantford. Currently, there's nothing that has come forward. There is a letter that I encourage you guys to look back at that the mayor of the city and the town manager came into agreement with related. And if you don't have that letter, it was dated, I think, June 28th. I might be wrong. I don't have it in front of me, but you can ask. And it talks about all these things that Related says they're going to do, and they say and sign. I can speak and say almost majority on there have not been addressed in their entirety yet, and that has been written since June. So what are our plans? Where are we going? What are we doing? Has anyone asked from this council about that letter? And I encourage you guys to be a voice and advocate. It doesn't have to be driven just through the mayor here. You guys are elected at large to speak openly and actively about anything you see as dysfunctional, wrong, or that you oppose. And I just encourage more discussion and dialogue to go in that fashion. With that, data centers. I know you spoke about the power agreement, which I think they're wonderful. But with that, in order to keep a wonderful power company, as was stated, we cannot, I encourage this council to never agree to vote on anything dealing with a data center in the town of Groton. It will dramatically affect our relationship as a small, quaint, local power company as desired. I know down in Basra, they're already working with Groton Utilities and aligning, and there's some other things, but I encourage this council to keep a pulse of what's going on, because Groton Utilities is not just Groton. Five Corners. You're currently working on, creating a floating zone. Bad, bad, bad decision. As a person who lives up the road from it, I will not support it in any fashion. The level in which this is now being redirected looks less than desirable. If you look in the paper tonight, Ned Lamont is pulling out of the Respler deal, the city. That's something I've been backing from for quite some time. Almost lost the election over that. Almost was voted off, and it was stated that some councilors did not want me to get back on because it was the biggest deal in Groton. And I encourage you guys to be on the right side of any deals and development. That Five Corners deal needs to be vetted properly. Stop trying to change the zoning to fit the need of a developer. You should have your RFP development agreement set up that you are ready to direct what we as the people want in the town, and then have the developer work towards the agreement, not change things to accommodate the tapestry of the community. So I encourage you guys to really look through that and be mindful. Also, as well as the voting, absolutely. You say that you've talked to people. I heard someone say, I was at Cumberland Farms and I spoke to this person. If you're truly doing the work of the people, which I encourage this council to do, it should be on your webpage. It's not. You should be putting Facebook flyers out like we do in the town when there's something changing. There should be something coming from the clerk's office, not a whisper. The only people who know are the people who are heavily involved. So for you to sit and speak on behalf of the community, you can't really do that without really blasting it. It has yet to be blasted out there. The only blast that's come is if I come here and speak or Ian comes and speak. Outside of that, it's mute. So I ask, where's your post? Where's the state's agreement posted up so the people can know? Where's the transparency on that? How come nobody in the community knows about it? How come it's not up on the channel? How come it's not on the website? How come you're not putting it in the paper? How come it's not up on any type of forum or anything else? Like, it should be up and transparent for people to find. It should be on your website and being able to read. It's not. I agree there should be a hearing of sorts.
You have 1 minute.
Thank you for that. I think there should be a hearing to invite people out, but first You can't be just a hearing next week and you didn't put it out on websites. It needs to be blasted first. So I encourage you guys to do the work of the people and ask your mayor and deputy mayor and clerk to get these things out, because you can, as councilors, ask for that. And I think that would show that you're really looking for the community's input. I will stand that I support November. My reason is for transparency and accountability and voter disenfranchisement. The state moved for that direction for a reason. It was said many times, oh, this or that. It makes sense to put everything on one streamline. We don't have to debate back and forth here. It's obvious. It has nothing to do with merging the town or the city. I love the fact that the city is the city and the town is the town. The only way that the city can merge with the town is if the city chooses to merge with the town. It will not happen by changing voting. Again, it's Breast Cancer Awareness Month. I encourage you guys to make some acknowledgement of that. Living here in a very industry area, it puts women at risk overwhelmingly in this ever high breast cancer rates. I encourage you guys to either do, I know the
time is
city,
up.
thank you. The city is doing patches for the police officers. I'd love to see some more output for breast cancer awareness. Thank you so much
Thank
for your
you for
time.
your comments.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, this is response to citizens petitions comments. I want to caution the council that last time we had citizen petition, response to citizen petition comment, got into a debate. It is not a debate back and forth. It is a response, and you're responding to their comments, not to each other. So with that, are there any responses? Deputy Mayor Depot.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you again for coming out. I want to encourage anyone who would like to speak to please come to our meetings and speak. It is one of the best ways to get your ideas to the council. Email is another good one, or obviously in person, but coming to the council meetings is, it's easy for us to take notes and listen to everything you have to say. So, first, I want to comment on Branford Manor. I have gotten a ton of emails. One of the things to address is the doing something. We received an email that Ledge Light is now, and actually I think in our last update last week we received, there was a note about it, but they didn't have the plan in place yet. But Ledge Light is now going to knock on every door in Branford Manor. The percentage of units that they inspected that found mold has now reached a level where they can say to Related that it is not government overreach, that it is appropriate to canvass the rest of the units. From what I saw, Branford is not very happy about that, but I agree with Ledge Light that, you know, and we discussed this in the beginning. In the beginning, we can't just go to everyone's house and inspect it and force them to let us inspect them. That's not how the system works. However, the rate of the finding of mold in the units has given Ledge Light the ability to say, you know what, we do need to make sure that every single unit owner is aware. I think Branford's idea was, you know, we provide information. And the mayor and I had said this in the beginning, just because you have information available doesn't mean that everyone has read it or understands it. And I know we've had, throughout the COVID pandemic, we've canvassed to get people information on vaccinations and stuff like that. So we know that people need to be met where they are to get the information. So that is something that's happened this week. That's a change that will be going forward. And I think Ledge Light, they might have sent like a plan of how many units they're going to try to knock on each week or something like that. But they are literally making a list of every unit and making sure they touch base with every resident over in Branford Manor to make sure that if they want an inspection in their unit, they can get one from Ledge Light without having to call or figure out who to talk to. So to me, that's one of the positive things that happened this week. I also I was gonna mention this in my communications, but I had noticed this morning, there was a post on Facebook, about heat in Brantford Manor. And, there are regulations for many things that landlords have to do. If you are a resident and you have a question, or you think something doesn't seem right, or, you're unsure, you can just call our building department or call the mayor's office, and you can ask, hey, is there a regulation about what the heat has to be in my apartment? Because in your apartment, the landlord cannot let the heat go below 65 degrees. They have to turn your heat on. That is not legal. So if that is happening, reach out to our building department and they will enforce that code. But I just want to say, I happened to see that on Facebook. That is not always the case. So I'm just urging everyone, if you have a question about what is legal in your unit, across the whole city, anywhere, not just in Brantford Manor, please reach out to the building department or the health department, both of them. You can just call them up and ask them a question. You don't have to have any kind of official anything. So I would encourage everyone to do that. I think not everyone is aware of how easy that is. And I've been trying to spread the word since this whole thing kind of started. About moving the election. So I agree that we might not be the same council sitting here after the election. In fact, we probably won't. But I think that the will of the people is whoever is sitting in these seats. And if we are able to put on the ballot when the election is held. So I get that now that we're talking about it, we want it to happen. But there is no reason that we need to allow the election to move to November now. We can literally just delay it one term to give the people more time, because you're right, people don't know about it. It's not been publicized, and part of that is because we didn't know about it until about a month and a half ago, and we, in discussions here, haven't figured out how to make that decision. I think that's kind of how I feel about it. So I do think that we need to decide quickly what manner, if we're going to just vote here, if we're going to have a public hearing, or if we're going to put it on the ballot. I think we do need to decide that ourselves and then post that information as soon as possible and get that information out to people where they can voice their opinion. In my opinion, if we want to honor the will of the electorate, we should let the electorate choose. And the only way you can do a public hearing, but the same argument can be made about surveys, about putting it on the May election, or on the May ballot instead of the November ballot. If we want the most people to come out and have their voice heard on that issue, it should be when the most people are able to do that. And that's unfortunately not going to be at a public hearing. I know we've all been to public hearings, and we do sometimes get a good crowd, but nowhere near the number of people who vote. So if we want to hear the opinion from most of the people, the best way to do that is to put it on the ballot, I think. And again, I just, like, to me, I don't know, it felt like we needed to make a decision right away, but there's no reason to change it so quickly. The law has provided us a way to delay that. And if the ballot comes back that everyone wants us to move it to November, that's a majority vote. So half the council plus one just has to vote on that. So it's, I think you're right, we don't have to do what comes back on the ballot. So if it's overwhelming and 75% of the people say they want to move it, you're right, the council doesn't have to vote that way. But a council that gets essentially told by the voters that they should do something and doesn't vote that way, I mean, that's in black and white. There's probably no way for those people to get elected again. So I don't personally see that happening from past experience of the voters saying one thing and the council voting another way. Again, also because of the majority vote, it's not a 3/4 vote to move it. If we keep it in May and then move it to November, it's only a majority vote. So I understand what you're saying. I do think that if we're going to give the people a chance to vote on it or choose, we should try to make it when the most people are going to be able to weigh in, yeah. So that's how I feel about that. Again, and I also just, I don't feel like it's prudent for us to push through when we've been provided a way to delay it a term by the legislature. I also am not a big fan of the legislatures just telling us what to do without even asking our advice. So I would like to ask what the people of the city think, because they weren't afforded that before this law was made. So that is what I think. On the Five Corners issue, that is a planning and zoning issue, so I would encourage people to send comments to the planning and zoning department if they have questions about the floating zone, comments, opinions on the floating zone. I would encourage people, obviously you've spoken tonight, but if people have opinions on that, that should go right to planning and zoning. We don't get a vote on that. So planning and zoning department does, and feedback matters. So those are the people that need that feedback. So I encourage people, if they have an opinion on that or anything planning and zoning, please send it directly to planning and zoning, because most of the stuff that goes to planning and zoning does not come to this council. It's just the way it's set up. So I would encourage people to do that. I'm not saying we don't get an opinion. We can obviously speak out and have an opinion, but the most effective thing is to tell those people what your opinion is, because they are the ones that are voting on that issue. And I also agree, I know that our police department does do the patches for Breast Cancer Awareness Month. I don't know if we do internally any like reminders for mammograms. I think would be a good idea, at least. And then on our website, I think that's something I always think about in October, because that's kind of one of the biggest things that they spread awareness, is to remind everyone to get their mammogram. And I think that's a great idea. So thank you for bringing that up. And that's all.
Anyone else? Councilor Piazza?
I appreciate both of you coming out, and thank you, Steve. So I think we have a lot of parallels in reference to our, the different issues that are discussed, and what I'm hearing is decision-making, 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 that we need to make a decision. That seems to be parallel, not just in Branford Manor, but the election, and also in Five Corners. And I do remember that some citizens came out in reference and spoke about Five Corners, and quite a few of them were quite dismayed about the whole planning at that time of what was going to be. So I know they had come out. So and I guess what I'm getting to is that if we need to make decisions, I think we do need to put it out there, and I think we do need to make decisions. We have been talking, I think, and even though it's come to us late, and I do hear in reference to that we shouldn't push forward, but then there are some things that we have pushed forward quickly. So I guess I'm laying this out, and it just seems that, well, we don't want to push this, but we want to vote. We want to make a decision. Can you make a decision? Maybe you should make a decision. But I think what it all boils down to is our constituents of Groton, and in reference to, and you'll have to, I'll have to apologize for my ignorance on probably the Five Corners. I followed some of it. So I don't know if I can ask a question in reference to this. So in reference to the Five Corners, is this something also that can be put on the ballot for the voters to decide what they want? I mean, if we're going to put voting on there, if it came to that, if we decided to put it on the ballot, could this, for the constituents to vote on also, could that be put on the ballot?
Well, we would need to decide what the question is.
Correct.
We need to talk to Leslie. We can put things on the ballot.
Okay. So I just think, that's something we could look forward to. I think, thank you for bringing up the survey. I totally hear that, and as far as like how much time it takes and so forth and so on. And I really appreciate everybody's comments on it, like, you know, you have to think about this, you have to think about that, and all the things that takes time. Things do take time, but, you know, how are we really reaching our constituents? You know, how are we doing it? I know just one time I put something out on Nextdoor app, and a lot of people said, wow, I didn't know that. It was actually, for example, it was somebody from our bus lot that posted something that social services was doing about clothing, and that, like, a lot of people didn't even know it was there, and they didn't know that was happening. They thought, wow, that's an amazing thing, so forth and so on. And it just brought light to me as a Groton City resident, and also the council's like, wow, I mean, it's just like, these are people that are in the Groton and don't even realize where it's at. So I think, you know, I mean, I'm not gonna speak against anything that we don't have, but I'm hoping that we do have things. I mean, it's been on my mind in reference to reaching out to the people who are bilingual, in reference as far as voting. So there's a lot to look at, but I think we've been talking. I'm just wondering, can we create a plan that we're actually going to do this by this month, and do this by this meeting, and do this by this meeting, so we have a little plan or an outline of some sort, instead of, you know, not instead of, but we've continually discussed, I know we're on a pressure line here, but could we have an outline of our next meeting, we're going to decide this, on next meeting, we're going to discuss it, and then our next meeting, we're going to decide. I'm thinking right now that maybe we're just, we're waiting till January to put it on the ballot. I'm just wondering if we, you know, we have a short amount of time, can we actually move it to actually give ourselves availability to say, yes, I'm for that, and also our constituents, and, you know, like, actually draft up something. This is how we can reach our constituents. Are we willing to do that with our constituents, and how are we going to do that? And if it's been done, or it's in the planning, excuse my ignorance for not knowing it, but I'd just like to see an outline of that, of what we can do, what we will be doing, before we actually decide if we're going to put it on the ballot or not. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. So let me address a couple of things. Regarding the election, we are going to have a public hearing before the cow in October. So it will be immediately before the committee of the whole. We are working on that now. I have reached out to Ted Bromley with the elections and asked a series of questions to him. I also reached out to my legislators and Senator. Senator Summers sent me something. I haven't sent that to you guys yet, but I will. I've also reached out to my attorney, our attorney, the city attorney, and we've reached out to CCM. So when I get that information available, we will get it to you, and we will be discussing this again at length in the October Committee of the Whole. Regarding Branford Manor, John Burt and I are continuing to reach out to Related to move them forward, to continue to move the plan. My understanding at this point is that the inspections are almost complete, and then they will start remediation soon. And as soon as they get that plan on how they're going to do that, they are going to share that with us. John Burt and I met with HUD last Tuesday, and at that meeting was Rich Keogh from Senator Blumenthal's office. And so we had a discussion about what can we do, where can we go, what information they need from us. And as a result, I sent all the deficiencies that were identified either by legislate or by the building inspection, along with, at that point, the most recent email from Attorney Harscott and Branford's response to the findings. HUD is looking at what can they do. The Blumenthal's office is also looking at what they can do at this point. They are concerned that taking this away from Related is not the right thing to do. because you have 442 families that we would have to find homes for. And there are not 442 available apartments in the county of New London. So we need to continue to move forward. We need to address the issues that are there. And if that means people are put into remediated apartments, or if they are put into hotels, then they need to continue to do that and continue to, as we are identifying deficiencies or deficiencies are identified, then we inspect them. Today, when I found out about the Facebook post, I sent an email to Branford and related, and I talked to my building inspector, and depending on the outcome from related, we will open up a finding or not. To those that are out there in the audience, if you have an issue with heat, don't post it on Facebook. That's not going to get you anything. The first step you need to do is you need to call your landlord. If that doesn't result in anything, then you can call the building official at 860-446-4104. And then we will then get involved. The thing is, there's different responses out on Facebook as to who controls what thermostat and whether or not it's controlled by related or whether or not it's controlled by the individuals. And so I have the question out to find out what that answer is. But the requirement is if the heat is below 65 degrees in the house, then that's a problem. So they're to let us know. Let's see what else. We are continuing to move things forward. We're continuing to work with the residents, and I'm continuing to work with Related and Branford to move things in a forward manner. You have seen the deficiencies that were identified and the responses, so you have the information that I have available. And you have the same information as the town council has. And that's all I have. Okay, so we will move forward to approval of the minutes. I'll take a motion to approve the mayor and council minutes of September 19th, 2022.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Are there any corrections to those minutes? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion carries. Take a motion to approve the committee of the whole minutes for September 26th, 2022.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Are there any correction of those minutes? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion carries. Communications and reports. Councilor McCabe,
Nothing to report.
Councilor Sheffield,
Nothing to report.
Councilor Piazza.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to say that the girls' swim team and myself, and along with other students, helped with the boosters up at the concession stand for Friday night football. It's nice to see a lot of people came out, and it was a wonderful time, and I just want to say hooray to the Booster Club for Fitch, because they have that thing like a well-oiled machine working, and I just want to say I'm so thankful that when I went in there, they just could direct you so easily. They were so organized. It was a really great time, and it was great working with them. Thank you so much.
Okay, Deputy Mayor Depot.
Thank you, Mayor. On September 23rd, I volunteered at the food box distribution once again. I figure if I mention it every month, maybe one more person will know about it. I just want to make sure that people don't think that we're stopping them. So it's the fourth Friday of every month. I think I made 11 deliveries this month. So if you could use a box of food, if it will help you pay your other bills, please come down to our food box distributions the fourth Friday of the month from 12:30 to 2. And if you can't make it to the food box distribution, please feel free to email me, contact the mayor's office. We will make sure that you get a delivery of food somehow. Not only do I deliver, we also have a resident who volunteers, and he fills his truck up and he drives around the city and delivers food. So we have plenty of volunteers that can help. So if if you can use a box of food, we will bring you a box of food. On the 27th of September, I attended the EOC drill, the Emergency Operations Center drill practice that we had here. And it's very interesting. We use this wonderful map over here. So we get like a simulated exercise of some kind of instance that happens in the area. And we have, this room is an emergency operations center. We've got the police department, building department, fire department, everybody's in here, and they all coordinate to make sure that we take care of our residents, whether that's to shelter in place or to disseminate potassium iodide or go break up traffic issues. It's like a practice run. So it's really cool to watch actually all of our departments kind of working together, and even though it's only a simulation, it does make you feel like we are prepared if something happens. And I am grateful that the mayor has invited me to be a part of that in case that's necessary. I also received communication from a resident about the, via email, which I've mostly received communications about the election change issue in person. So I did have a resident email me and say that they are really interested in being able to vote on the ballot for it. So I just wanted to let everyone know that. I don't always get such direct contact via email. And then I was gonna bring up Brantford Manor, but I just wanna echo what the mayor said. If you have an issue, you know, contact your landlord first. If your landlord's not responsive, you are, well, even if, it doesn't even matter. You can contact the building department, the health department. They are all accessible to every resident for any reason. You can call and ask them questions. And that's it.
Okay, the phone number, if you're in need of food, is 860-446-4103. That'll come to my office, and then we can take your name and address, and we can get food delivered to you. Clerk, you call me. Do you have anything to report?
I could ask it now rather than committee referrals, but if Group 1 or Group 2, I think Group 1 met last month, so you won't be meeting. There's nothing too much pressing.
Yeah, I think we were gonna wait until November, right?
Okay. And then Group 2, you guys meet? You want to meet? Okay.
Okay. All right, anyone else? All right, so at this point, at this time, I want to bring Sierra Patrick up, our Economic Development Manager, to talk about a tagline survey and to talk about surveys in general. Sierra?
Good evening. Edward, would you mind? So good evening. Yes, I wanted to come and talk to you guys generally about our community outreach and some of the resources that we're using now, and also kind of give a background of some of the things that we've done in the timeframes that it has taken us to use some of the online platforms to kind of get some feedback in. So just a quick summary, we did a lot of online community engagement in 2021 leading up to our Visioning Thames Street and Community Resiliency Plan. We conducted the Groton River Walk. We got a total of 202 responses. That was all done through SurveyMonkey, and that took about 7 months to get that type of feedback in. We also did a City of Groton Community Preference Survey, which kind of highlighted how often people wanted to hear from us, which kind of gave us the background to actually get the newsletter out and running. That was out for 5 months, and we got 73 responses. Then the City of Groton Value and Awareness. This was the initial outreach to start to build an understanding of what that brand and logo would look like in the meaning of the City of Groton. We got about 200 responses for that, and that was out, it took us about 5 months to get those responses in. Then fast forwarding to 2022, we no longer have the SurveyMonkey platform. We have decided to combine it with some other resources, which I'll get to in just a moment. But thus far, for this one, we are using a Google platform through the consultant Miranda Creative. The survey has been out online for about 3 months now, and thus far we've got 86 responses. In addition to the online presence, we held 3 in-person workshops between April and July to try to get people to come out. We got really low attendance, and that's why we converted to more of an online fashion. But since those numbers are still a little bit low, I am requesting that you guys participate and get the word out there. We're going to leave it open for another 2 weeks. This City of Groton brand is something that can be used to help us define our commercial districts, banners, slogans, community events. It's something that really embraces both our businesses and residents and our projection forward of how we really see our community. So we really love to see everyone participate in that effort. To participate, the easiest way to do it is to go to the City of Groton website. On the main screen, you will see a banner that says "Help us define our city." If you click on that, it will take you immediately to the survey so you can participate. Some key things that we've noticed with online surveys and communication is that we try to at least do a time frame of 4 months. We do that just because sometimes our projects are in correlation with consultants' work, and so we get sometimes we bump up against time frames, kind of like with the tagline survey right now, where we've been stuck in maybe about 6 months now of outreach, and so consultants' time frame, we really want to start to try to move. We want to get as much community input that's meaningful, but also not have projects tied up while we wait for that. So still trying to balance that out. But we recommend at least 4 months and a good sampling size. We've been going for a goal of about 200 plus respondents of getting something in. As far as resources, we do not have the SurveyMonkey account anymore. The City of Groton's newsletter is the best resource we have to get information out. That audience base is roughly 6,000. It is through email. We do have these door hangers that go out throughout the community for people to sign up for it. It is through the internet, so, well, we hope people have email. We know not everyone has access to it, so we are looking for other alternatives to be able to provide maybe a printed copy or at least access at a public library so that they can view the information. And then the newsletter is done through Constant Contact. It does have a survey function, but once again, that is only to the audience that is signed up to your newsletter. As far as Greater Groton is the community engagement tool, online tool that we are going to, at the moment, we're currently switching over to. With this tool, every individual has to register, so you have your own profile, and it's a way for us to all kind of communicate back and forth. It's like Facebook, but it's more project and focus oriented around things that are going on in Greater Groton, so all of Groton, but within our case, the City of Groton. So yes, highly encourage people to, 1, register for the newsletter so they can stay up to date, and 2, register for Greater Groton so we can have that community engagement and everyone can participate. If you do not have a computer or access to a computer, please visit Bill Memorial Library or Groton Public Library because these resources are available, obviously, through their resources. And open for questions.
Councilor McCabe.
Really more a question for you. This is great. Thank you for bringing this.
You're welcome.
Is it possible, you said we're having a public hearing, to have like these to pass out to people that show up for the public hearing and maybe have like a 2-minute blurb of, hey, pick these up kind of thing? Is that
We
possible?
can do that as well.
Sure.
Anyone else? Councilor Sheffield?
Have we set up broadband, I guess, in the Branford Manor area? Has there been service, like a complete Wi-Fi for that neighborhood? Have we set up anything of that nature?
I don't know if they have Wi-Fi over there or not. I assume they do, but I don't know the answer.
Okay, because that's something, of course, having access as well to a lot of things digitally. That would be something if, I know we had prospects of that as part of the American Rescue Plan, establishing broadband in the city.
We had talked about establishing broadband in the public areas of the city, not in the
Yeah.
private areas of the city.
Okay, but that should be something to think about for Branford Manor as well. I know Eastern Point Beach was discussed, but I think it's more valuable for a residential area, more so than a public beach, so. And like I said, not everybody can get to Bill Memorial Library also, so it's,
Anything else? Anyone else? Deputy Mayor Depot.
Thank you, Mayor. So I have taken the survey, and I think early on, I posted it on my Facebook, but I don't know how many city residents follow my Facebook page. Unfortunately, we often have trouble posting on community forums, which is probably the best way to get people who are on Facebook, because anything we post is kind of viewed as political, and some of the forums don't like that. I am wondering if, I don't know, are you on any of the community forums?
So no, I'm not on any of the Groton community forums. Could I just add a comment? For Facebook, for the tagline survey, we did invest some money to actually boost the post, and we did it with Groton, the city of Groton geographic location in mind. So that basically, when you do it, it is a paid advertisement, but it brings anyone who's registered within Facebook that lives within the city. It registers them and it puts it at the top of their feed when they kind of log in. So we did that for a little bit. I think we're going to do that leading up to the closing of it as well.
Do you know how many click-throughs you got for that?
I don't have that off the top of my head.
Okay. I know that Facebook will give you the click-through rate for your ad, which might be helpful information. The reason I was asking is because it might be helpful for someone who is not an elected official to reach out to the admins of the community forum, and I don't know if I mean, even anyone else who's in the office, and just say, hey, this is not a political thing, we want community input on this, can you please help us boost this? That may work. I know it doesn't, I know Mayor Juan Melendez in the town also sometimes will post stuff and it gets relegated to a thread, and he's just trying to inform people. So it's a little bit frustrating for that, because this is clearly not a political thing, it's a city thing. So, but it might help to have someone who is an employee or, you know, non-elected person to reach out to them. It might work, and I bet you'd get more responses, because a lot of people do follow the community forum that live in the city. And
Are there top community forums in mind that you have in mind?
I think if you just, I think it's Groton CT Community Forum, or Groton Community Forum.
And
Okay.
you may want to PM the admins.
That's what I mean. I think that would be the effect, instead of trying to post it and then having them move it. I think if we reach out first, might be more effective.
Okay.
But hopefully maybe we can get more responses that way. And I think that's all. It is, I think this is a good example of the fact that it is hard to get, even with going out and talking to people, it is hard to get people to respond to when we want people's opinions. It is difficult. So, all the more reason why I think we should really try to get as broad a response as possible. I'm glad we're doing the public hearing for our election thing. But I don't know, are you able to see for our newsletter who opens that?
We can see the percentage of who opens, and we usually have over a 35% open rate for our newsletter,
Oh, that's pretty
which
good.
is really good.
So that's like 2,000 people, a little over, right?
Yeah.
I'll wait till you're done.
Well, no, I mean, I was
I
just,
have a
I was just
however.
thinking like, it would be great if we could get more responses from those people. So I don't know if like I know Miranda Creative is helping us on kind of all fronts, to see if maybe there's like a strategy with the newsletter to like where you put it on the newsletter to get more click-throughs on the survey, or something like that. I don't know if there's, I'm not saying that hasn't been done already, just, I was just trying to think like, that is kind of a big audience that, you know, a little over 2,000 people are actually clicking on it, whether or not they're reading it. But,
We do, with that, our newsletter is, it is content rich. So we usually try to put any things that are action driven at the top of the newsletter so people can get that, so they're not scrolling all the way down to the bottom and then
Okay.
like, oh, now I have to, they're asking me to do something.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
okay.
The challenge with the newsletter is that we have 6,000 people, right, roughly? And what geographic area does that cover? Do you know?
That covers the city of Groton, and it may have a couple of carryover spots to where Groton Utilities is.
So
covered.
that's mostly City of Groton?
Mostly city of Groton,
Okay,
yes.
because when you go into, one of the things we looked at with SurveyMonkey is it's hard to narrow it down just to District 2 and 3. And it's also difficult to narrow down just to one response. So that's why, if we're gonna do this, I'm in favor of putting it on a referendum in May, because you know you're gonna have people, you know the people that you're gonna be talking to or that are gonna be addressing are voters in the city of Groton. So that way you hit your target audience. We are gonna have, we talked about this today, about having the public hearing just before the committee of the whole. But, you know, public hearings are here in the city are hit and miss. You never know who's gonna come out. You might have 2 people come out, you might have 40 people come out. But, it just depends. So we'll see where that goes. Any other questions for Sierra? Councilor Piazza.
Thank you, Mayor. First, I want to thank you for all the work, and thank you for looking into the SurveyMonkey and responding to that. Obviously, you got word about that. So glad to hear. I was wondering, listen to, because I know at one time when I was suggesting something via internet, and reflecting off of what Steve had said, Councilor Sheffield had said, reference to Branford, I mean, I was thinking about their office itself. I know at one time when they were building that, people were talking about what was going to be used for, reception, and I know a lot of the students that live in Branford have their Google Chrome laptops, so, you know, looking at that to be available, I mean, obviously if they have an access there somehow, I'm not sure if the parents are paying for that, the guardians or whatever, but, you know, maybe that would be another setting, so not only would the students be able to get there, the adults would be able to get there also. That's just reflection off that. But I was wondering also too, so not to, I know money is always involved, but when we're talking about getting connected onto the site, is it possible, so, I know not everybody comes off the bridges in the city of Groton, but, I mean, there are people who live in the city of Groton do come off the bridge. I was wondering, you know, like the little wire stick signs and that, and maybe just strategic places like up in housing, like at the Navy Lodge, people coming in. We've had a lot of new students come in. The Navy Lodge, CDC for daycare. I drive through there, and a lot of parents are coming in and out of there. And people who are,
Are you saying to put signs in those
you know,
locations?
the signs, so that when they pass through into the entrance, they actually could, to reach out to them, to look at the site. You know, if they're not on their phones, or if they're not on the internet, or so forth. Because, I mean, it was said to me that not everybody has internet access. So I was just looking at that edge to see, you know, if they're not, or just to click, you know, just to see if they are aware. And I'm not sure if this is far out, but do we have a list of people in the city of Groton that they can register their emails to say, yes, I would love to receive this information and that you could just put it out, because I know some of the things that I have received is mostly through my email, like, you know, what's happening in the city of Groton and so forth and so on. It's directed right to my email. So,
So,
I'm not sure if I'm making sense.
so you would like signs put up, maybe that say like, sign up for Greater Groton?
Yeah.
Kind of thing throughout the community,
Right.
sign up for the City of Groton newsletter. At
Yeah, something
City
very
of
similar to what
Groton,
you have here.
just sign. This-
Yeah.
Okay.
Just, yeah, strategically placed so people say, oh, you know, because I was really surprised when I was talking about when the person posted about the donation of clothes, how many people were not even aware where it sat and that those services were available. And I thought, wow, you know, how do we reach out to that? So I'm thinking the same thing here, to reach out if it's, if not a lot of people have internet access. When it was talked about the Survey Monkey, then how do we address it to those people? And even so, it would still touch those people who do have internet access. You know, putting signs, such as, you know, when somebody's displaying their company, those little wire signs, stick it down the ground, you know, for a limited time, we could put them up strategically, especially, you know, I'm thinking the military people, because they reach out quite a bit, I think, like a Nextdoor app, I see a lot of them reach out and ask, what's here, what do I do for that, how do I do this, what's the best place for that?
Okay. I can research
Anything
that.
else?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Sierra. All right. Committee referrals? Any committee referrals? Okay, we'll move on. New business, Councilor McCabe.
Resolution R-22-9-112. Therefore, be it resolved that the mayor and council authorize Groton Utilities Management to contribute up to $150,000 to the Neighborhood Assistance Act, NAA program, in return for matching tax credits pending approval from the state of Connecticut. I so move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. This was discussed at the committee of the whole. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion carries. Deputy Mayor Depot.
Thank you, Mayor. Resolution R-22-9-113. Therefore be it resolved that the mayor and council authorize Groton Utilities Management to issue a purchase order to Technological Solutions LLC, 5 Ricky Lane, Preston, Connecticut, for an amount not to exceed $87,840.00, which includes a 20% contingency for SCADA Prism support to be paid from fiscal year '23 electric operations and maintenance budget. I so move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. This was discussed during the committee of the whole. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion carries. Councilor Sheffield.
Thank you, Mayor. Resolution R-22-09-114. Therefore, be it resolved that the mayor and council authorize Groton Utilities Management to issue a purchase order to Technological Solutions LLC, 5 Ricky Lane, Preston, Connecticut, for an amount not to exceed $91,200.00, including a 20% contingency for the SCADA integration to be paid from the transmission lines 1410/1280/400 Buddington Substation Bond Fund Project. I so move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. This was discussed during the committee of the whole. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention, motion carries. Councilor Piazza.
Thank you, Mayor. Resolution -22-09-115, therefore be it resolved that the mayor and council authorize Groton Utilities Management to issue, a purchase order to Census 450 North Gallatin Avenue, Post Office Box 487, Uniontown, Pennsylvania, for an amount not to exceed $307,800.00, which includes a 20% contingency for the purchase of 2,000 electric meters to be paid from the fiscal year '23 electric non-bonded capital budget. I so move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. This was discussed during the committee of the whole. Is there any additional discussion? Deputy Mayor Depot.
This is actually not about this resolution in particular, but I just noticed that all of the resolutions so far have a 9 in them. Should they not all have a 10? The very last one has a 10.
Correct, they should be for No, because they were received in September.
It's when they were
For the
received,
cow.
not for when we vote on them?
Correct.
Okay, that was really my question. I should have asked it that way. Sorry.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion carries. All right. You have one? Okay. So if you notice on Resolution 22-10-116, I have a new resolution here. In order to get that into the packet, I'll need a motion to suspend the rules to insert or swap out Resolution R-22-10-116.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? When we sent this out on Friday, we worked on it, but Ron US wasn't here. He was out on Friday. So when he got back today, we asked him to help me clean it up so that it was consistent with the other resolutions that we've had before. So that's why we have this. Okay? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions?
I guess I'm not understanding what we're actually doing here.
Okay,
We're substituting.
so
Right, but I mean, is there, I mean, this looks much longer than the other. I understand he's clarifying, so is there something that we're missing that we didn't discuss? That's what
No.
I'm just trying to understand.
no, this was all discussed during the committee of the whole.
Okay,
When Sue and I were working on this Friday, we wanted to keep it simple. We went back and we pulled a resolution to mimic, but we didn't pull the right resolution, and Ryan pulled the correct resolution today to mimic, and that's why we have this information here. There's nothing that's new in here that wasn't discussed during the committee of the whole.
okay,
So there's no whitewashing of anything. There's no smoke and mirrors. It is, if you look at the bottom line, it is, therefore be it resolved, it's pretty much the same thing. Is going to, with agreement for somebody, for the amount of something, that somebody and that something has now been clarified in this substitute motion. Does that address your question?
kind of, I mean, the wording, am I not right? Because I'm just receiving it today. So is the wording the same? Because in our packet that we got, say, for the end, now therefore be resolved, so we're going to rescind this, it's saying, and authorize the contract.
We're rescinding a resolution that had been previously approved. And then you're approving this contract with FTTB LLC for $20,000, which is what we had talked about
For
before.
the Mother Bailey.
That's correct. Hold on a second. Deputy Mayor Depot.
So, I don't know how, this comes up very rarely, but when we are going to rescind a motion, can we have a copy of that motion in our packet?
I no longer do the mayor and council account.
Oh.
That's Sue.
Okay.
But we can make
So-
sure that,
Because this has come up before, and it makes
Yep.
it less confusing if we can see the old resolution. I believe this is the resolution that we had approved, because we did approve the sale, but the contract didn't go through.
Correct.
So we can't approve the sale of the house without rescinding our prior approval of the sale. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
So
My-
that's what that rescission is.
Okay, so my only issue is, it would be clearer if we personally got that other
Hold on.
resolution.
We're gonna go get it. Can you go pull up Resolution R-21-691?
yeah, I can pull it. I'll go pull it. Right.
Okay, go pull it up, run copies, please. I want to make sure that council is comfortable with this motion to move this.
Thank you.
Yeah, like I said, there's no sleight of hand
Can
here.
Well, I'm not
another
saying,
question?
I'm just saying, I'm voting on something, I just want to make
I
sure that I'm clear.
understand. And I'm trying to answer your question.
Okay.
Deputy Mayor Depot.
Well, I just wanted to
Yeah,
add,
keep
so,
going.
because I just want to clarify. So the other difference, I'm guessing because our finance director is a detail-oriented person,
He is.
because the other one also doesn't have the land information.
That is
Right.
correct.
So I'm guessing we added that for clarity. And because I think this is usually what comes when we do a sale. We have like the boundaries of the actual,
Right.
the whole, the
He-
deed information.
Yep, he used that. He's been here longer than Sue. So when I asked Sue to go back and pull the previous information, Sue went back as far as she needed to. Ron went back as far as he knew. So Ron had the breadth and depth of knowledge that Sue didn't have, and that's why he added these, the description, physical description of the property.
Okay. I'm good. That, my only real point of contention is when we have to rescind a resolution. I
I didn't get this until later today, and I didn't realize that, we had a rescission in there,
okay, thank you.
and we're gonna rectify that now. Any other questions on the new motion or the old motion? And we'll get Edward to, get Kurt Jacome to get us the rescinded motion, or the motion that we're about to rescind. Counselor Sheffield,
And I guess it would be required to show the Schedule A, I'm trying to say, it's almost saying the boundaries of the property needs to be included in the motion as well, which
well,
wasn't.
this is in here.
Right, in this one, the
I'm
new one, but
asking,
it
I'm
wasn't.
asking you, so we're gonna have the rescission, that'll resolve that issue,
Okay,
right? Because it says to rescind. Where is it? To rescind, and then these are the boundaries
okay. But,
in the new resolution.
so that needed to be in this, compared to the last one. that
Ron
needs-
felt it was cleaner,
Yeah, correct.
or, excuse me, Finance Director Uhas felt that it was cleaner
Yeah,
to
absolutely.
do it that way. And he is a stickler for detail, which is good. Counselor Piazza.
Thank you, Mayor. So on the new one, the revised one, the first whereas, it says whereas, when we get down to the second line, as part of Ordinance 184, and this is all in 2010, so
Correct.
that's something I'm not aware of, I mean.
But we had
and somebody can-
discussed this in previous discussions.
The ordinance was discussed?
Yeah.
Can you just give me a brief, highlight, Reader's Digest, what that meant? I don't remember. Do you remember? Anybody remember Ordinance 184?
Well, that's the ordinance that approved the purchase.
Right,
It's just to approve the purchase. That's what
Right.
the Ordinance 184 says.
right. That approved the 3 purchases of properties, remember that? There was the Mother Bailey House, there was 108, 0 Broad, and 4 Latham.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So this is resolution R-21-6-91. So we were gonna enter into the purchase and sale agreement. The purchase and sale agreement was never entered into. And so that's why we're rescinding that tonight as part of this, resolution. Still going to the same person, and in this case, it's for an amount of $20,000. Counselor Piazza.
Thank you, Mayor. So on this one, I know this one's older, correct, that we were just handed. So this one says 2 parcels, not 3. So the third one is being added?
No,
Oh, sorry.
hold on.
Okay, sorry.
This goes back to the second RFP. during the second RFP to sell Mother Bailey, we combined no, we did not combine. We offered 108 and 0 Broad as a package deal. So that's what this was. So for the new resolution, it is just for 108 Thames Street, the Mother Bailey House. 0 Broad was not part of that.
Okay. You have a question?
Counselor Sheffield, you have a question?
Now, the purchase and sales agreement is now revised. Will council be able to review that purchase and sales?
We're gonna have to go into that.
Okay,
We've not put that together yet.
okay.
What's that? No, not yet. So so right now, we're talking about answering the questions so that we can move, so we can accept this resolution instead of the other resolution that was there. That's what we're discussing and getting ready to vote on. Is there any other discussion on that? Counselor Piazza?
Well, I'm a big person, I know we're voting on that, but I'm just a big person on blank, blank, blank for the amount of blank. So we're allowed to leave those blank?
You're gonna get rid of this.
Okay,
This resolution here. This resolution here. Is replacing this resolution here.
right, I'm just comparing this to this, what have we added, what
Well,
haven't we?
let's
It's
fill-
just timing, I
Then
haven't
let's
had
fill-
enough time.
Then
to
let's fill
review.
in, the blanks.
Thank you.
Sale agreement with FTTB LLC. And then the following information for the amount of, and this says for the purchase price of $20,000. That fills in those two blanks.
And I'm sorry, is FTTB the gentleman that wants to purchase the Mother
That is
Bailey?
correct.
That's the name of his construction company?
That's the name of his company.
What does that stand for, if I may ask?
Uh,
What is his
I
name? Can we
think
say
it's
that? We did
Frank
before, right?
Trace, and I forget his other son's name. And then, Beatrice, that's his wife's name. And then Jeanette is his last name.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor?
Counselor McCabe.
So the first resolution that came in our packet was a placeholder because Ron Uhas, who writes these things, wasn't available. So you made your best guess and kind of left it as a placeholder. When Ron came back, he filled in the blanks, used the template from a previous similar resolution so that you were consistent with how you normally word things, and provided us with this tonight with the details that we discussed last week.
That is correct.
Okay, just wanted to make sure I understood it.
Counselor Piazza.
I guess, Mike, first we should vote to suspend, if we're suspending the rules and adding it, and then you would vote on
Right.
discussing it first.
We are still discussing this to get it, so that we can get to the vote to get it added on. We're not there yet, I don't think. Counselor Piazza. I'm not discussing the motion, I'm discussing adding this into the packet so we can discuss the motion. So this is not in here. In order to get it in here, we have to suspend the rules to swap out the two motions. That takes a 2/3 vote to we have a motion and a second to do that. Once it's swapped out, then we get full debate on the motion. That's what we're trying to do now. Everybody,
I'm good.
any other questions, comments?
No, just a comment is that I understand it, it's just a matter of voting, what we're voting on specifically, that I want to be clear. I understand the clarification. I think that's being misunderstood, that I understand the point of this was in the packet and this was in here and so forth and so on. I understand that. What I'm saying is I'm voting on something that I just had questions on. I just wanted to be clear because the verbiage here, even though we're rescinding it, I just want to make sure. I'm not saying anybody's smoke screen this or any way, shape, or form. I just want to make sure because I'm voting. That's all. I want to clarify. So that's why I'm asking the question.
I know, but we need to get it, we need to pass the vote to get it so that we can debate the resolution. We're not there yet. So are we ready to vote on suspending the rules to swap this motion? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention. Okay, now then, Counselor McCabe.
Resolution R-22-10-116. Therefore, be it resolved that the mayor and council rescind Resolution R-21-6-91 and authorize the contract and sale of .15 acres of land and structure, 108 Thames Street, Groton, Connecticut, in as-is condition to FTTB LLC, 142 Benham Road, Groton, Connecticut, for the purchase price of $20,000 and no cents, and that Mayor Keith Hendrick would be authorized to execute said contract. I so move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. I'll open the floor for discussion. Counselor Piazza. Okay, I assumed that you would have a question since you had them before. Have your questions been answered? Deputy Mayor Depot.
I just want to comment that it's been a long road to get here. Hopefully, I know that we have reduced restrictions at every step, and I'm very happy that the hopefully end result is going to be a city resident who we see often volunteering. He and his wife volunteer a lot of time to the community. They really care about this community. And so it makes me happy if we can have a win-win situation with this particular building. And yeah, so I just wanted to say that I'm glad with, you know, we've had a couple different offers, and I'm glad we landed on this one for Frank.
Any other comments? I'm very happy that Frank is up for this, and if you, as a council, decide to move this forward, I think this is a very positive thing for our city. So, that's all I have. Any other questions or comments? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. Take a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. Thank you, council. Thank you for your indulgence and endurance.
Thank you.